This conversation about building up your blueprint. It's time to take it cause time is wasted. Go grind and chase it, don't lose it. This generation need integration with information to move with. An inclination that is abiding in entertaining improvement.
Hey, Blueprint Nation, what is going on? Welcome to another dope episode of the Respect My Blueprint podcast, where we give you the blueprint on how to do shit around here. All right. And today's episode, guys, I have another tremendous guest on the show today, and he is going to share us why it's never too late to start building wealth, right? Especially in this day and age, 2025, it's extremely important that, ladies and gentlemen, you pay attention to some of the gems that's going to be shared today with my guest, because he's an author as well as a financial advisor, guiding individuals and entrepreneurs to be able to unlock their financial freedom. So listen, fam, today's guest, he's not your typical suit and tie financial advisor. All right. As you guys can see here, this man, he pulls up for house calls, drop gems like a philosopher, and breaks bread with athletes, entrepreneurs like yourself, and everyday hustlers like us all trying to level up in this day and age, right? So he has over 25 years of experience in the money game. 25 years, right? So he has a book under his belt that he's about to release that we're going to talk about. 3 daughters who I'm pretty sure they run his schedule, right? But okay. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and make some noise for the man himself, Urban Adams. How you doing today, my friend?
Wes, I'm doing great today, and it's great to be with you. It was so much looking forward to this conversation today, so I'm really, really excited to dive in.
Absolutely. Well, it's not just for ourselves, for the audience as well, too, because I'm pretty sure we're going to go ahead and discuss some great gems that they could take away to be able to go ahead and unlock financial freedom for themselves, build generational wealth. But before we get into all the juicy topics and everything like that, right, I always like to start off by, giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience. So if you can, in a quick elevator pitch, let the audience know a little bit about yourself, your background, and your expertise.
That sounds great. Thank you. I'm Urban Adams. I'm based in the Phoenix, Arizona area. I've lived here on and off for the last 30 years or so. My wife and I have 3 daughters who are all in their early to mid 20s. And aside from being a volunteer sports coach, mostly softball, I'm a financial advisor and have, after launching my practice about 13 years ago, coming up on 13, living, what I really could only have dreamt about 13 years ago.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. Well, 13 years ago, you've decided to, get into the field of becoming a financial advisor. What led to that, by the way? Is it a lifelong career path you wanted to undertake, or was it just some experience or moment that sparked the interest?
That's a great question. As you can tell, in the way you introduced me, being 25 years in the business, the first dozen or so years were in non-advisory roles. I was learning a lot about the business. I was working closely with advisors and had reached an inflection point in my career. Had a job at a role at a firm that ended, and I found myself in this spot where it was, hey, what's next? And there was no better time to start than right then and there. I'd learned, or felt like I'd learned enough to get started. I was also afforded the opportunity to have a 9-to-5 job as well, which helped me with building that advisory practice, because I was able to run those 2 tracks at the same time. And we'll probably touch on something like that for our listeners later on.
Right.
But it was really important for me to be able to do that until I reached that point where I had that critical mass, that size that I could say, hey, listen, this is what I'm doing full time. So it was a matter of applying what I knew about myself, what I really should be doing, what I was really going to end up loving doing, which I do. But it took some time to get there, and it took some patience, and it took, having mentors. It took reading books that were going to be helpful to me as far as formulating this plan. And did I know what it was going to look like 13 years ago? Definitely not.
Right.
But I sure am pleased with the way it turned out.
Awesome, man. And of course, there's no shortage of having very knowledgeable and impactful financial advisors, right? And reason being, which you probably can attest to this throughout your career, you've realized how there's a huge need for professionals like yourself, right? Because financial literacy, credit literacy, especially financial literacy, is something that's just not taught or educated to people as they're getting into adulthood. It's something
No.
that you have to go through the trials and tribulations of life and everything like that, right? And which, number one, it's a two-part question. Number one, why do you think that is the case, right? And do you feel like there should be more financial advisors in this space right now?
Well, I certainly agree that there's probably room for more. For
Right.
sure. And I think part of that is around our industry too. I don't work with an infinite number of clients. So I'm very hands-on with my clients. They call me during the week, during the business hours, and if I'm not in a meeting, I'm the one picking up the phone. They're not calling an 800 number. They're not calling, to try to make it through some sort of phone tree. Now, if I'm not available and I'm respectful with my clients who I'm meeting with, my phone gets put away and my attention is all theirs
Right.
until that meeting is over. But I work with a number of clients who have gotten, very comfortable with that, and they like that personalized approach, something I talk about in my book too. And there's a certain limit to the number of people that you can serve effectively. And that's why I think there's room for more advisors who offer a personalized service because, hey, you can't just grow endlessly and everybody just becomes another account number or another account balance to you. You have to know them deeply to really truly help them. So I think there's an opportunity in this industry to do so and take a very personalized approach while leveraging and acknowledging the fact that, the tools that are available to us, including artificial intelligence, are around. But
Oh man, yes, you're right about that.
I
Yeah.
don't think they'll ever take away the personalized approach that exists.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with that because, of course, with this digital age that we're in right now, you just mentioned artificial intelligence. Things are going to become a lot easier for individuals to be able to access information, to be able to have the ability to leverage technology to be able to go ahead and help their situations, but there's nothing like that personal touch, right? There's nothing
Right.
that absolutely beat that as well too, which so you've been helping clients in building that. So what are some of the things that you specialize in helping clients with? Is it more in the estate planning? Is it more in the retirement phase, like how to structure 401k? Is it, or just depending on their age and situation, you'll give them a certain strategy on, just how to be able to, leverage things such as compound interest or other mechanisms as well too.
Yeah, it really is a broad-based approach. So
Okay.
it's handling the investment planning, the investment management. It's handling the tax planning, not tax advice, but not necessarily the tax preparation aspect of it, but
Right.
taking an aim toward making sure that we're as tax efficient as possible, both leading up to and in retirement. I counsel clients on making sure that they have an estate plan. They're going to work with an estate planner, a professional to build the documents. But then I help implement those within the investment accounts they have, within the assets that they have, to make sure that not only is the estate plan dialed in, but then everything else that will be affected by it is also tied up to make sure that things pass the way they want to. We talk about risk management. So clients who are building their wealth, hey, are we leveraging some form of term life insurance to make sure that in the event something unexpected happens while they're still building their wealth, is their family taken care of? But at the same time, we're looking at it later in life, and are we looking at policies that will help pay for long-term care when they're older and they're not able to take care of themselves? So risk management is really important. I help clients with whether or not they're, or when they're going to file for Social Security benefits, or how they take advantage of their pension benefits if they're eligible for one. I'm very fortunate to be eligible for one. So all of those components combine together, and then we manage the emotional decision making that exists around money and our relationship with money. And
Right.
when we pull all of that together, then we've got a strong foundation for realizing that unexpected things are going to happen. I tell my clients often, we're going to make a plan for you, but we're going to plan for that plan not to go according to plan. I will tell you that I'm sort of that.
Okay, yeah, I obviously we had cut off for a second there, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming you definitely had shared your point on that, which I want to go ahead and move into your book now. You're
Yeah.
building a book that's titled Wealth Your Way, right? Building wealth and the life you want through high touch planning. Okay. So break that down a little bit. High touch planning. First of all, what was the inspiration behind this book? And then, we can dive into a little bit as far as some of the concepts and the philosophies behind it.
Well, the inspiration for it is that I'd had the idea of writing a book for a number of years and finally got to a point where I felt like I had enough ideas to fashion into a book, and it really was about sharing that foundation because, like we talked about before, the fact that there's not a great deal of financial education out there, and I didn't set out to write a textbook, but what I did was talk about the various foundational those pillars that exist. And then on top of that, talk about how I really am a sounding board for my clients. My clients reach out to me, shoot, this has nothing to do with their investments or their investment accounts. One called me to let me know that they had been in a fender bender on their way back from vacation in California on their way back. And we're just kind of talking through the situation because they're likely going to have to replace their car. That have anything to do with their investments? No. But was I among those first phone calls when that happened? Yeah. And that's the kind of person I aim to be for my clients, is that if it has anything to do with your overall financial situation, I want you to ask me. I may not be the one who gets you the answer. I
Right.
might come back and turn around and just ask you additional questions that I think you should ask to be in a good position to, make the right decisions for yourself. But I tell my clients all the time, you're in charge. It's your money, it's your wealth, it's your life. Make sure that you're making informed decisions. And I'm there to help you make those informed decisions. Filter out the information that's unnecessary, help you avoid the things that I think are truly not good for you. But at the same time, make sure that you're in control and living life on your terms. It's we all have a short time, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a sidebar here. Just in the last
Okay.
week, I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Maryland, went to high school there, and moved to Arizona as a young adult. And one of the first guys I met, ninth grade in high school, first week or so, I met this guy, and we hit it off. We had a good, he was a year ahead of me in school, but followed him. We stayed connected on, Facebook, LinkedIn, things like that. His kids, both twins, graduated a week or so ago from high school. Saw another picture of him visiting school with one of his sons. Same day as the visit, has a medical event, passes away. 56 years old.
My God.
Floored me, gut punch. And I'll tell you what, it reminds me every single day that none of us have an amount of time that is promised to us. So the idea is make sure that we're, living to the fullest. We don't put things off. We don't, hey, well, that'll wait until I'm retired. That'll wait until this. Don't wait. Do it. Do
Yeah.
it with,
Do it.
with the knowledge of the fact that, yes, you still have to plan that you might be around for a long time, but don't continuously kick the can down the road and not do things. So I take that approach with clients because there are some who, you can work with somebody who's just about making sure that, hey, I just accumulate, and I've got this big pile of money at a certain date, and you might not have any time to spend it in your life.
That is true.
What good is that?
It helps you in no way, shape, or form. No way, shape, or form. Which I completely, wholeheartedly agree there with you. And because a lot of things, one main thing I feel that holds a lot of people back, just in general, just in the example you've mentioned, or even where you have nothing and taking that next step, is taking action.
Yes.
Taking action, right? Whether you have an abundance of money, like you say, you've been saving and saving, and you're not implementing a strategy to be able to leverage and build wealth, or you have a lack of it, right? So either end
Yeah.
of the spectrum is still taking action has been something that's just, I feel, has been a big obstacle for a lot of individuals there for
Yeah.
nowadays.
If I
And
can, I'll
go
add
ahead.
to that because one of my mentors, which is important, I think it's important that anybody who's looking to kick off that business to be an entrepreneur, and even if you've got a full-time income at the same time, you're building that. Find a mentor, find someone who's done that before. And one of my mentors said, listen, and there's the difference between doers and dreamers, I guess. And I'm a dreamer too. Don't get
Right.
me wrong. But he said the ones who don't do it are the ones who are constantly getting ready to get ready. So in other
Ooh,
words, they're waiting for the perfect set of circumstances. Hey, when this happens, when this happens, when this happens, and then you keep on chasing those carrots and never do anything. Hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be all built. Get out there and do it. Get it
just
started.
do it.
Refine it. Does
Right.
my practice look the same as it did 13 years ago? No, it was good before,
Right.
but I'd like to think that I made it a whole lot better over the last 13 years for my clients.
Wow. Which let me ask you about, your practice and your philosophy within your book is through high touch planning. How did you develop the framework of the high touch planning, and what is truly the concept behind it as well too?
Well, it was that, that part of that was that accessibility, like I talked about before.
Got it.
Clients call
Okay.
me, and I'm the one answering the phone, and it's not an infinite group of clients that I'll end up working with. I add clients, but I do that selectively, and they're selective with me. The high touch part, though, is really getting to know your clients. I met with clients over lunch maybe a month or two ago, and it was mother and daughter who are both adults and have their own separate financial plans, but they live in the same town. So we got together for lunch.
Right.
And I got to know them in a much deeper way when they started talking about some of the things that they dealt with financially when it was a single parent household with her daughter. And sometimes, feeling like it was down to that last dollar, no joke, to buy gas to put in the car to get to work kind of thing. And knowing those kinds of things helps me help them with the plan and the strategy and responding, how they call me and might have thoughts about certain market events or economic conditions and things like that, and helping them navigate through that without making any rash emotional decisions that might turn out to be not so great decisions for them. It can be as simple as going with a client who's retired and needs to replace their phone and going to the Apple store with them to buy a new
Wow,
iPhone.
man. You talk about personalized service, Urban. You really provide that, man. I like it. I love it though. Yeah.
And it's not everyone takes advantage of that. And I won't say
Right.
it like take advantage, like doesn't utilize it. Just it's available to
It's
them, that
available,
level of
right? I
touch.
see what you're saying. Yeah.
But it's about what their individual needs are. I tell my clients, you tell me how often you want to check in with your plan. Is it one, two, three, four times a year? Tell me. I don't want you to get annoyed by hearing from me too much or not enough. You tell me how
Right.
often you want to meet. And then I tell them it's a virtual open door policy. They don't have to wait for the next meeting to discuss something. Something comes up, pick up the phone, call me, send an email. Let's set up a conversation about that. So it really is about, it's trying to be that truly an advisor to clients, that I'm there, unless you're reaching out to me within a week or two, my schedule's pretty flexible, and I can make time when we need to.
Okay. Which now I want to ask you a question to bring some great value to the audience, which not to say we haven't done so, but what are some of the things that you recommend, the core pillars, right? Most of our audiences, they're aspiring or newly minted entrepreneurs, and sometimes the thought process of having a financial advisor may not be on top of their mind. They
Sure.
probably, like any entrepreneur, I need to get my business going, right?
Yeah,
Getting my business
absolutely.
up and started, right? But overseeing some of the principles that you teach with your clients and to be able to go ahead and have it run parallel with their business. You don't have to get into any specific strategies, but what are some of the things that you recommend entrepreneurs should take as they're embarking in their entrepreneurship journey they should be aware of when
Yeah.
it comes to financial planning?
And when it comes to financial planning, I look at it as, essentially like a three bucket strategy. And this might sound
Okay.
familiar to some of our listeners, but I think of it as, the first two are going to be fairly academic. People are going to go, yeah, of course, that's exactly what I want to do.
Right.
That
Okay.
is, a build your emergency fund, because when you're an
Oh,
entrepreneur,
yes.
your income is not necessarily consistent and stable. It can be a little choppy. So
Mhm.
create that emergency fund that you can dip into when things might be a little lean, or where, cash flow is a little uncertain. But as you grow more, that's gonna that's gonna stay in place, and you're gonna figure out what that number is. And I don't tell people what the number is, but you say, hey, if I've got X number of dollars in my emergency fund, I feel comfortable. Okay, if you feel comfortable, anything on top of that you should now be setting aside to create a retirement savings plan for yourself. So whether, if you're self-employed, that can be a SEP IRA, that can be a simple IRA if you're employing others, it can be a 401k, all sorts of options for small business owners. Set up your retirement for yourself. And then if you're getting to the point, and especially for those who are farther away from retirement age, farther away, hey, make sure you're putting some money in there because it's going to grow and it's going to grow for the long term. And you also want to make sure that you've got investment money that is outside of retirement accounts. That's that third bucket
Outside of
that
the
I think,
retirement accounts. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So make sure it's money that's not just sitting in cash and earning interest, which is okay for the emergency funds,
Right.
but for the funds that are outside of retirement, open up a brokerage account, get that money invested so that it has the opportunity to grow too, and utilize it for goals that you have before retirement.
So,
So I think those three buckets are super important for anyone, and especially our fellow entrepreneurs who are looking to build some wealth. You're going to build it in a diversified way, both through the investments as well as where those investments are, where they're held, in essence, the types of accounts you've got.
and which I'm glad that you shared that, because another popular word. Well, it's not popular, but is not popular enough. And I want your thoughts, which they call it what, the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest.
Yeah, yeah,
Compound interest, right? That right there, I think Warren Buffett said it well. He called it the eighth wonder of the world. And most people, they think of compound, oh, it's only 5%, 10%. It's not. But the fact of the matter is, that 5% on top of what you're investing now turns into 8% the following year, 16%, and so on and so forth.
yeah.
And when you think about it, in no time, next thing you know, you're looking at your account. It's like, oh, wow, I started off with ABC and now I have XYZ. But again, it's the power of compound interest, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I tell, especially my younger clients, the ones who are farther away from retirement age. Yeah, there's this desire, pour everything you can into a Roth IRA, max that out. That's great. And if you can do it, that's great, but not to the detriment of not having cash and investments available to you for the next, what, 30 years, 40 years, depending on your
Right.
age. And because the money that you put into that Roth IRA or whatever other retirement account has time to grow, has decades to grow. And you will learn how powerful compounding is when you do that, but not to the detriment of making, you don't want to be cash flow poor while you're
Right.
working and
Of
building this
course,
up
right?
just for the sake of that retirement, thinking about making sure we're living in the now too. So it's important, and we all are dealing with a finite number of dollars to allocate to each of those. But once you filled up that emergency bucket, okay, now you've got the retirement bucket and the non-retirement bucket to add to, and they both deserve attention.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned, especially with like the Roth IRA, and because I've had a few financial advisors and wealth strategists come on the show here. And and the point is, and I want you to see if you could clear up this misconception. Like, for instance, life insurance, right? A lot of people don't take advantage of it because they feel the ultimate benefits comes from after you pass away. Your
Yeah,
family receives the benefits of, your life insurance or anything like that, not knowing there are substantial and significant benefits throughout the actual term of the policy you can take advantage of, right? Another example is retirement, Roth IRAs and 401ks and everything. Most people have the misconception you take advantage of these instruments upon retirement, right?
right.
But not to realize there's significant benefits and value that could be taken advantage of throughout the term of the policy, or of this instrument as well too.
Yeah.
So let me know, is that, do you believe that's also hinder a lot of people from taking advantage of these instruments like life insurance and retirement planning because of the misconception of the time period where you could take advantage of it?
It could be. I think too, and there's a great deal of information out there. There's a great deal of differing opinions than mine, and just as much as clients who may not feel like their values are aligned with mine and might not feel like they're good clients. There's a absolutely fabulous advisor, I'm sure, out there for them that fits their, what they want to do. I look at it from the standpoint of there is no standardized process for any one of my clients, because what information they present to me, we come up with the plan to say, okay, here's where you are, here's where you tell me you want to be. We then reverse engineer the plan to fit what information is available. And that might be likely different from every single client that I have, because all of their circumstances are different. So yes, while Roth IRA only might work for someone, or utilizing life insurance and utilizing that to an extent might work for someone else. And that's kind of the beauty of this profession, is the fact that it's not an assembly line. It's not client
Right.
A
There's no
comes
one
in, plug
size
them
fit
into this.
all.
Precisely, exactly. And that's some of the, one of the things that I truly love about it, is the fact that it is so individualized, and it is something that evolves over time too, as they reach various life stages. They get married, they have kids, they buy a house, all of those things, all of those life events influence what that next set of decisions are. And in doing so, that's what makes the work interesting.
Is there's one piece of advice you would like to share with the audience here?
In the entrepreneurship journey, what I would say is, and I would strongly encourage, is that they first and foremost, I realize I'm telling them to read a book that I didn't write, but The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss came out almost 20 years ago. One of my favorites, very influential in me formulating an idea what my career could look like. I encourage them to read it. My oldest daughter has it on the bookshelf at her house now, and I've listened to the audiobook, I've read individual chapters, really influential for me. The other is, make sure that you write out your business plan. Don't keep it up here in your head. Write it down, write it out, build it out. And like we talked about earlier, get started. No better time than the present to get started and get moving on that plan. Because the sooner you do that, the sooner you can maybe reach that same inflection point I did and leave the 9 to 5 behind and carry forward with the growth of your own business.
You never know. And Urban talked about the importance of tax strategies. These are things that no matter where you are in your entrepreneurship journey, whether you're just now starting out, haven't started, or you're halfway into your journey, these are things you need to start exercising right now. Wealth your way. The point is building wealth through high touch planning. So he's someone that is a firm believer in giving personalized experience, personalized attention, which that right there, if you're new to this or uncomfortable to having these conversations, he's someone that can definitely be able to make that a lot more easier for you. But Urban, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the show. The audience, if they want to be able to reach out to you, if they want to be able to connect with you or ask more questions or anything like that, go ahead and share with them how they'd be able to do so.
Thanks, Wes. I appreciate that, and really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, speak with our audience, and hopefully they've taken some good information from this and some things that they can take action on, most importantly. And again, thank you, because I know when it comes to the financial planning part, hopefully they'll also find the book interesting as well. I talk about the big pillars of it, how to make sure that emotional decision making doesn't lead them astray. And yeah, if I may, for our listeners, they reach out to me via my website, which is just urbanadams.com. They can shoot me a message and ask for a copy of the book, and I'll be happy to send them a copy.
Oh man. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's not often that we have a guest that is not only bless us with pure value and gems throughout the show, but there's a free gift as well too by connecting with him, which of course we're going to include in the show notes, his website, urbanadams.com. As you can mention, if you want to be able to experience some of the strategies and some of the concepts or get more insight of what Urban has shared with us today, check out his book. You can be able to obtain a free copy simply by reaching out to him. Blueprint Nation, let's not disappoint. Let's go ahead and show the love and support that Urban deserves. He has taken his time out to be able to sit with us to share some of the strategies that, his intellectual property that he typically shares with his clients. Let's show out for him and give him all the support that he definitely deserves. But Urban, thank you for appearing on today's episode. It's been an absolute pleasure and fantastic to have you on the show. I'm hoping we could do this again. I would love to do a part 2, and we can definitely share some more gems with the audience. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you want more tips on how to be able to level up on your personal finances, entrepreneurship, business, funding, credit, whatever the case may be, this is the platform where we give you the blueprint on how to do so. Check us out on YouTube, Apple, as well as Spotify every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. All right. But thanks for tapping in. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, guys, what we're going to do, we're going to catch you on the flip side. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
This conversation about building up your blueprint. It's time to take it, cause time is wasted. Go grind and chase it, don't lose it. This generation need integration with information to move with. An inclination that is abiding in entertaining improvement. Yep, Wesley Paul with Blueprint. His guests are exclusive. Get on and tune in and then learn some new tips about credit, finance, investment. A nice chance to get rich and buy land. Flip it, quick 9 bands. Learn all the skills from Wes, he did it. Learn how to build successful business. Run up a mill and get the digits. Run up a mill. Look, safe place where guests are speaking. Based off financial freedom. All facts, no cap, believe it. Podcast, you have to see it.